So as I'm recording this video right here, right now, it has just become September of 2023. Already, we are 9 months into this year, which is absolutely insane to think about, as I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that the horrible year of 2020 was 3 years ago. And even though this year seems to be moving faster than anybody could imagine, I already think it's safe to say that 2023 has been an amazing year for horror games. I mean, in the past 9 months alone, we've gotten the likes of the Resident 4 remake, the Outlast trials, Amnesia the Bunker, and many, many more. In fact, if you really think about it, the past 9 months have been amazing for gaming in general, as there's been countless amounts of games of all genres that have been massive hits for both indie and AAA titles. And it seems like there's no signs of stopping these highly anticipated games, as just in the horror genre, we're still waiting for games like Alan Wake 2, a Silent Hill 2 remake, and many, many more. However, there's been one game that has been in development for the past year, and from what I've seen has very little hype surrounding it, which is a shame because from the trailers, the gameplay reviews, and even the demo, this has potential to be one of the scariest survival horror games in a very, very long time. I, of course, am talking about the Alone in the Dark remake. A little bit of a history lesson, how's it going? I'm Professor Scrakes, but back in the early days of gaming, Alone in the Dark pioneered the survival horror genre. In fact, Alone in the Dark 1 is known to be the first ever survival horror game that was set in 3D. First created by French developers Frederic Reynal and Didier Chanfray, I totally butchered that name. They kinda just wanted to make this as a little side project while working at Infro Games Entertainment, and in 1992, they were able to release it to the public. To put in perspective how early this game pioneered the genre, the two largest survival horror franchises to this day, that being Resident Evil and Silent Hill, were not released to the public until 1996 and 1999 respectively. Now, even though Infro Games had a leg up with releasing the game as there was virtually no competition at the time, Alone in the Dark became a massive hit almost instantaneously due to the sheer premise alone, as people loved the idea of you, Detective Edward Carnby, entering this undead, riddled, HP Lovecraftian-inspired mansion while having absolutely nothing to your advantage. Even in some points, you were not able to see in the dark, you know? You were alone in the dark. And because of how beloved the game was, in 1993, the sequel Alone in the Dark 2 was released, and in the following year, the third game of the trilogy made its way to the public as well. However, here's where the downfall of the franchise comes in, and it comes in quick. During the early development of the second game, most of the team behind the original game left the company to start up Adeline Software International due to a creative dispute with the Infro Games director Bruno Bonnell. And because of that, the reviews for the following two games of the trilogy reflected the departure of the original team, as they just got worse and worse and worse. In the early 2000s, I want to say 2001, there was a little resurgence with the franchise of Alone in the Dark with the release of The New Nightmare, but even then it's still regarded as mid and forgettable. Then there was a movie for the franchise in 2005, which currently sits at a whopping 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, with a sequel, and don't ask me what dumbass greenlit a sequel, but that had a staggering 11% when it was released in 2008. And that's not even everything that happened in that year alone. Again, in 2008, there was a remake for the first game, which was the most 2000s horror game you could ever imagine. I'm talking there was that ugly-ass grayscaled color scheme with the really grainy effects, and then there was Edward being more edgy that the teenagers would probably get into and like. It just did not work out well. There were some features and mechanics that people really enjoyed and that made the game stand out, but overall, this was just another failed project. However, still in 2008, this marked as a very busy year for the franchise, as Infro Games Entertainment would be acquired by Atari SA, which could be seen as maybe a new hope for the very milked game. And then the hope was destroyed immediately, as 7 years later in 2015, Alone in the Dark Illumination released, and for some reason they made the game open world. Why would they turn such a critically acclaimed survival horror game where you basically are stuck alone in this demonic mansion, and they turn around to have GTA? I have no clue, and neither did anyone else, as this game received a less than stellar reviews on so many platforms. After that piece of whatever you can call this, I don't want to even call this a game, Atari SA sat on this IP for another 3 years without touching it until they sold the IP to THQ Nordic in September of 2018. My god, that was not really a little history lesson, that was huge. Maybe I should quit YouTube and become like a history professor or some shit. That would be pretty cool. Anyways, now that you all briefly know how this IP went down the drain in the matter of seconds, really, and really why nobody gives a damn about this franchise other than the few fans who grew up with it. But like I said earlier in this video, THQ Nordic is actually trying to capitalize and make right of the Alone in the Dark franchise, as last year they announced a remake for the very first game. And I'm not gonna lie, even though I've never heard about this series before this announcement, I am incredibly curious and even a little bit hyped to see how this game will turn out. I love THQ Nordic. Over the years, they've built a really good reputation for fixing up and remaking older classics like SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and Destroy All Humans. But when I first saw this trailer, I was hooked immediately. It like first showcases a doll hanging itself and then a random child who's singing doing the same thing. Okay, please don't take what I said out of context, YouTube. All of these enemies look downright horrifying. Some of these just look like amalgamations of flesh and bones. Others look like mutated bugs. Like, I already have a feeling that I have to be playing this game with the lights on. I have to be playing in the middle of the day. Hell, I'll hire an entire security team to watch my back in case any of these terrifying creatures jump out of my screen and attack me. But even the creatures aside, just taking a look at this game, it looks beautiful. I love the overly warm color schemes that has a false sense of security. I love the very cold color schemes that also look very uncomfortable. Hell, they even went with the direction of the original 1992 game, with the setting taking place in the 1920s Louisiana and not fucking Gotham City. And that's not all that made me excited for this game. Earlier this year, THQ Nordic released a small demo for all to play on Steam, and as of recording this video, it is still up for anybody to pick up and play for free. Now, although this demo is roughly 10 minutes long to play and complete, you get a general idea of what's coming in the full game, both gameplay-wise and horror-wise. The best game that I can compare to this remake is the remake of Resident Evil 2, mostly because, well, they're both remakes and one was heavily inspired by the other. You're in a fixed third-person perspective trying to wander the mansion, interact with anything, and trying to solve some puzzles to progress. It fits more of the puzzle aspect that the older Resident Evil games had, so if you did enjoy Resident Evil 2, you'll really enjoy this. Horror-wise, this game is a lot more terrifying though. This game will have like random environment changes, and I adore those type of features in any game whatsoever. There would be a moment where like you look away for 1 second and then you turn back and there's like a shit ton of statues just staring at you. Oh my god, bro, that gave me shivers when I first saw it. And also story-wise, if you have never played the game, there's no shot you're gonna understand what the hell is happening in this demo. But I kinda really like that. From what I can gather, you play as Grace, otherwise known as the little girl in the trailer who may or may not have already demonetized my video. At first, she's playing with a papier-mâché mask when she hears a commotion next door, and that's because of this very sketched out guy who believes that anything and everything is coming after him. His name is... God damn it, it's Jeremy Hartwood. Why can't there be any normal Jeremys in any game whatsoever? There's this insano Jeremy. Apparently there's a shit ton of Jeremys who for some reason loses their faces in 5 Nights at Freddy's. Like, come on now, we need to have some good Jeremy representation in games. Anyways, this Jeremy believes that everything is spying on him, ready to kill him, because he knows too much about this cursed house. And he also wants to send a letter to his niece writing about his findings in this house, and is scared that said people will destroy his letter before it gets sent out. So you deliver the mail for him, and then you fucking die. You're left with so many questions and not a single answer in this demo. And after playing this and experiencing this confusing story, I'm just left wanting more and wanting to see what all happens. What's really cool about this demo though, when I played it for a second time, is that in one of the first shots of the game when you're playing with the papier-mâché, the book that you use to, you know, make papier-mâché showcases Jeremy hanging himself in the attic after being driven to insanity. And lo and behold, at the end of the demo,
last night I dreamt that my uncle hung himself in the attic. That we were too late.
Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, at the end of this demo, you get to see Edward Carnby, and he's played by the absolute GOAT David Harbour, so already this game is sitting pretty at a 9 out of 10 for me. But those are my quick thoughts on Alone in the Dark. In essence, I am more than excited to play this. I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on this upcoming game, as I'm not really seeing this remake being talked all that much when compared to the other eventual releases this year. I mean, I get it, yeah, this franchise is notorious for being yeah, it exists. But I guess because I never knew about the series beforehand, this is all new and fresh to me. I don't really care about any of the failed projects beforehand, and I'm just hyped even after seeing a little bit of this Alone in the Dark trailer. Anyways, this remake will be fully released on Steam on October 25th of 2023 as of this day of recording. I don't know if there will be any pushback or any delay, but I very much doubt it, as we're quickly winding down on the release date. So, go wishlist it now on Steam if you want. But other than that, I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you all liked this video, maybe hit that like button and subscribe, maybe give me a good comment down below, maybe even give me your social security number, who knows. But other than that, I will see you all in another video. Bye for now.